Welcome to Bookview TV. I'm Dennis Campbell. This week on the program, we delve into a type of literature that has beguiled and wondered for decades, the genre of science fiction. Joining us today is the British author David Thorpe from right here in South Wales, and we're here to discuss his novel, Hybrids. Now, science fiction has at times filled me with wonder. What if this could happen? Robert A. Heinlein, for example. I could read his work all day. Then there are the moments of somewhat lunacy, begging how did this ever get onto the page, screen, or telly, as in the case of the 1960s U.S. television series Lost in Space. With apologies to my Facebook friend Bill Mooney, who played Will Robinson, it really was rubbish. Some say it's not serious writing. Others, though, become so attached to characters and plot lines that they'll travel across the globe to attend conventions like rock star groupies. I wanted to understand this level of devotion. Now, the book Hybrids hits us all where we live. The premise is a virus has caused a quarantine across Britain, and our two heroines, Johnny Online and Kastrella, are young hybrids, victims of a virus which causes those suffering from it to merge with items of technology. Now, Johnny's in a legal class called a Grey, and the author of the manifesto, The Rights of Hybrids. He's 15 and gradually turning into a computer. Kastrella, though, is a Blue. She's permitted to live at large as long as she has a minder and is registered. Her hand is a mobile phone. Now, the warning is on the very first page, and it's prolific. Are you a slave to your computer, welded to your mobile phone, joined at the hip to your iPod? I guess we'd update that now to say iPad. Maybe one day you will be. Cue the scary music. David Thorpe, welcome to Bookview TV.
Thank you very much, Dennis. It's great to be here.
Now, I got to say I was a skeptic, but I really enjoyed this, and my 13-year-old son is absolutely loving it too. So I have to ask you right off the bat here, you're a serious environmentalist, a writer who won the HarperCollins contest to find a major new children's writer. What I found interesting was that your background is as an environmental engineer and a writer, yet you took this direction. So what made you enter the contest, and how did this book come into being?
That's a long story, actually. The roots of it lie in the 1980s on a previous work that I did called Dog Chaos. Dog Chaos was actually commissioned as a TV series. It nearly got made 3 times, but didn't. But it did get made into 2 or 3 comic book series. And somewhere in there, that's me and my co-author, Lawrence Gray, we put in some weird people called mutants, and we had some weird people called the Bio Squad, who went around clearing up these mutants. Now, the Bio Squad became the Gene Police, who feature in Hybrids, and I wrote a 12-issue miniseries for comics about the Gene Police. So I already had that kind of story world. And when the idea for the competition came along, I thought, well, this is for kids. Why not actually imagine it from the point of view of the hybrids? So the mutants became hybrids, and I came up with the idea of people merging with frequently used technology after I found this particular, I don't know whether you can see that. That is a postcard that I picked up in Barcelona in about 1984. And for some reason it completely fascinated me, because I do like working a lot with artists and from art and so on, because my degree is actually in art. I'm not an engineer or anything like that. I just happen to write about environmental stuff because I'm passionate about it. And this image said to me a lot about the way in which, say, the nuclear family is being broken up by an obsession with commodities and technology rather than by personal relationships. And for me, that's what Hybrids is essentially all about. It's not. In fact, it's funny that you, in your introduction, you go on about science fiction. I, funnily enough, didn't realise that I was writing a science fiction book. For me, it was about metaphor, and the hybrids are a metaphor, and the whole society, which is about the Gene Police, and it's a fascist dystopian society, is about the way in which society treats people who are different.
Well, I think what most will find shocking is how prescient this book really was. I mean, you won that prize, it's almost 8 years ago, and yet this book has, although it has a few semi-obscure technology references, I mean, talking about older technology, it remains even more important today thematically. So how does an almost 7-year-old book talking about technology take over and withstand the test of time in a tech world that seems to change every 4 months?
I think simply because it is a metaphor for our relationship with technology, which is only going to get more and more convoluted and intense and extreme. We are actually becoming almost quite literally wedded to our technology. We can't bear to be without it. We can't bear to be without our cell phones, our smartphones. We can't bear to be without our iPads. If we go somewhere on holiday and we feel we're out of range, we start to panic and start to worry that we're out of touch. This is just the beginning. I mean, as the internet or the cloud becomes more ubiquitous, then actually being away from the cloud will just seem like completely alienated and weird to the next generation of people coming along who are brought up with it.
Like most of the better Disney and, let's say, even Harry Potter stories aimed at younger readers and viewers, there are messages that seem to cross the line here and talk to adults as well as children. And that always seems to be a very delicate balance. Talk about how you managed to walk that fine line and what you were really trying to say to all of us with this book.
I think there are a couple of key passages in the book for me. One of them is a dream sequence that's in chapter 3 or 4, where Johnny Online is having a nightmare about being charged by a hippopotamus. And the editor actually wanted to take that out, but I insisted on it being put in. And the other is much later on in the book, where Johnny is standing naked in front of a mirror, and he has in his head, in his mind rather, a presence of Bruce Lee, who is his hero. And Bruce is trying to tell him to have courage, to look at himself. He's always been ashamed of his body and the way that it comes across since he got the disease, because you have to bear in mind that creep, which is the name of this disease, is actually painful. Although hybrids' powers are enhanced by the technology that they merge with, they can in most cases use the technology. Kastrella can use a mobile phone. Johnny eventually becomes one with the internet and it gives him awesome power. He suffers for it as well because it's a very painful condition. And he himself feels an outsider. He feels that persecuted, and he feels alienated from his own body. And so that passage where Bruce Lee forces him to look at his reflection and accept himself as he is me talking about both myself, my own feelings, because I'm also disabled, and it's talking to teenagers whose bodies are also changing during their teenage years.
That's one aspect of this, and this book has several surprises, none of which I'm going to go into here and spoil it for the potential reader. And yet it's still nothing like what we see and what seems to be so popular in sci-fi these days, this sort of mixture of sci-fi and horror. I mean, it is horrific to think about what hybrid kids go through, but this almost feels like a comic book than, say, a Michael Crichton thriller. I mean, I read Michael Crichton, and his books have me thinking I'm reading a narrative, and then he inserts something so absurd, my mind actually wonders if I read what I thought I just read, what actually happened there. How did you manage to stay the course and avoid slipping into that sort of sci-fi horror sort of genre?
I think by focusing on the human side of the characters. It's interesting you mentioned it's kind of like a comic book because that's my background. My first writing gig was working for Marvel Comics when I wrote a strip called Captain Britain. And I subsequently wrote quite a few other comics. I've edited a lot of graphic novels. So Marvel Comics changed my life when I read my first comic book about the age of 7 or 8. And what I appreciated from that was really the having my mind boggled. And it's that when I read something or I see something in narrative form, a fiction, that I want to have my mind boggled as well. So I feel if I'm writing something that boggles people's minds, that's great for me. That hits the spot.
Well, when we come back on Bookview TV for part 2 with the science fiction author David Thorpe, we'll boggle everyone's minds a little bit more as we delve into the plot a bit further. You're watching Bookview TV with Dennis Campbell. Stay right here.